What if one of the biggest growth opportunities in tech wasn't on your screen or wrist, but it was actually in your ear? Now, in this episode, we're going to dive deep into how a legacy brand is using AI to disrupt an overlooked industry, redefine wearable health, and scale past $1 billion in revenue, all while staying deeply connected to the human touch.
Welcome to Fordify Live with your host, Saeks.
Joining me today is Brandon Sawalich. He's the president and CEO of Starkey, the only American-owned major hearing aid manufacturer and global pioneer in health-focused wearable tech. Now, I'm going to let him share more about his story. Brandon, welcome to Fordify Live.
Thank you, Ford. I'm honored to be here. Excited. Your topics and your guests is, things that excite me, and let's have a great discussion.
Well, just for the record, we're live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and a few other places. And the audio from this episode becomes the Business Growth Show podcast. So I want to say his name again for those of you listening. It's Brandon Sawalich, Sawalich. He's the president and CEO of Starkey, Starkey.com. Obviously, you can see this in the show notes below. But in the teaser for this episode, I talked a little bit about, this $1 billion industry and what you've done in the growth. And full disclosure, before I got on, I went to Perplexity and I said, who is Brandon Sawalich and what do I need to know about him? And it came up with all these accolades. So obviously you guys can Google him or use AI to find out who he is, but we're here live with him today. So Brandon, tell us a little bit how you got into this industry, and then let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing now.
Well, thank you. And, I'm a Midwest guy, and accolades are great, but what's the team doing? And I'm a team guy, and we have great people here. And I started, at Starkey 31 years ago, intern job for the summer, entry level, and was going to go second year of college. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the responsibility. I fell in love with working with the customers and the patient and seeing what the products could do. And this was in 1994. And I said, well, I'll skip year. I'll get back in January. Well, 31 skip years later, I have the great opportunity of, leading Starkey and really changing people's lives because, what we do is we connect people with people through better hearing and changing the stigma of a product that really in the past, nobody wants. When you think of a hearing aid, you think you're old. And that's not how I think. And for the last, 6, 7, 8 years, we've been changing that.
Well, I know under your leadership, Starkey has grown into $1 billion powerhouse who operate in over 100 markets with over 5,000 employees worldwide. So, you've obviously, starting 30 some years ago and growing it up. Kids, you too at home can do this if you stay consistent to what you're doing. Yeah. Now, I know you've worked with a lot of really cool people and everything, but I want to learn more about this tech. So I'm 64 years old. I have pretty good hearing, but my wife would say maybe I don't. Now, I don't know whether it's, selective hearing or not, but I have looked into some of the hearing aids, but I know you're doing some things with AI that are really pretty cool too. I looked at some of the YouTube videos. So when you think about, traditional stigmas for hearing aid and what Starkey's doing, there's a vast difference. So tell us a little bit about the vision and how you transformed it from something that was more mundane and looked at to more of a real human solution.
Well, there's only 5 hearing companies in the world. Starkey's the only U.S. Owned and privately held, as you mentioned earlier. And for us, it's, really about the patient and how do we take a single purpose device that has a reputation from movies, media, pictures that I don't even know where they come from, that don't represent today's technology. I wanted to go from incremental improvements in this industry, which has been the norm, to what's the moonshot, right? What can we do different? And you've got to have a team and talent and a vision. And started that vision and that journey back in 2017, hired a new chief technology officer, 50% new talent of what we needed for the next decade. And then how do we make hearing aids cool and using AI? We were the first to use AI in hearing aids and embedded sensors in 2018. Now AI is everywhere, right?
Right.
And, you mentioned yourself, you might have a little bit of a hearing loss, but it's not about amplifying sound. What we want to do is, help you be the best that you could be each and every day because you're missing things and you don't know it. you can get a little bit of an edge of, my hearing is my superpower, and exercising the brain and keeping it healthy, well. And as I said, it could be family business, giving you that advantage because you're missing sounds that you don't even probably recognize or realize until something, replaces and brings that back.
Well, yeah, it's just like I run a marketing agency and I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of times they'll tell me, "Well, I know exactly who my market is because they've got their analytics, but it's bad data, right?" So they don't know what they don't know, and it's kind of like what you're saying right now. People don't know what they don't know. They think they know what a hearing aid is, but significantly different. So obviously I do a lot in AI. I speak on a lot of AI to organizations, not like what you guys are doing, of course, more in the application of how they can use it. But what is AI doing now? In layman's terms, how are you using AI? Now, before you answer, let me ask you this. So I recently upgraded to some iPods and the Apple AirPods, right? And it was able to do sound distortion and let sound through, and it was kind of cool because I'm like, I can turn my head and hear the music differently. So now I realize, talking to someone who doesn't know what they don't know, I can see technology in just earphones, but now take it to the whole nother level with wearable aids that you really can't tell you're wearing at all.
Yeah, and what we do is we personalize. Our products are personalized to the person in need. And for us, yes, AI and the use of deep neural networking technology, because our products, as I said, we have to design them sleek, small. Nobody wants to have them seen, but they're powerful, and they are the vehicle to the brain because
Right.
the ear is the pathway to the brain of hearing. So we keep, with AI, we're the only ones where our AI is always on.
Got it.
If you're wearing the product, so it's layman's terms, it's constantly scanning quicker than you can realize, and it's filling in the holes, the missing dots per se, in your brain of sounds and frequencies that you're missing, and it's adjusting and always adapting to the environment. So if I'm in a loud sound, it knows it. If I'm in a quiet sound, it's going to amplify. So it's thinking for you, and I say friendly AI. It's not the dangerous, spooky kind.
Sure, right.
Because it's helping you adapt and be the best that you could be each and every day.
Well, I know in some of the articles you've written, you've talked about the ear being the new wrist, right? So everybody started with the watch and then the phone, and now it's translating into wearable technology, and certainly the ear is a huge part of that. So how is Starkey turning hearing aids into the next gen health technology?
I like to think of it. Well, think of it and making it real. And my son is 18, and he's now a NASCAR driver for Xfinity Series. So he goes really fast. But growing up, he's always had the Marvel movies. I've seen all the movies up to Endgame, and it's Jarvis in your ear. Iron Man was my favorite. So it's really, think of what we're doing is taking a single purpose hearing aid, which was 10 to 15 years ago, and making it multi-purpose. So you have to have the best sound. People want to hear better noise. That's job one. We're not, just coming out with over-the-counter type products that just amplify sound. No, people want to hear better, so that takes AI and a lot to do that. Then we have health features, fault detection. We have step counting, as I said, the ears, new wrist, other health features that could monitor throughout the day. And then your own personal assistant, your own AI assistant that, I could double tap and, what's the weather outside? It'll tell me. I can translate through the app 72 different languages if I'm traveling.
Okay, so again, full disclosure, I'm going to interrupt you right here. I want to order some because I travel a lot, and I'm always in other cities and countries as a keynote speaker. And man, sometimes I really wish I could hear other languages. Okay, so I interrupted you. Sorry, sir. Let's go back to so you mean to tell me that I can get a hearing, I don't want to call it a hearing aid, but a device that would also not only hear, but I could actually use it as an assistant and translate. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate hearable because it does so many things. And yes, it can translate. We partner with Google and others. And the goal, because of technology limits us, but the biggest barrier in the world is really communication, language.
Yeah.
Right. And we want to break down those walls. That's the second phase, from connecting people with hearing is language and being able to talk. We need to listen more. And so think of what was Star Trek in the 60s, the instant simultaneous translation. That's where we're going. And so, I was just abroad a couple of weeks ago and I used it quite frequently.
That's cool. That's so cool. Now, what's your distribution model? So if someone's interested in your products and services, obviously they can go online to starkey.com. But what's your distribution model? Because you're obviously in 100 markets, you've probably got multiple channels of distribution. But what are some of the ways that you distribute and sell?
So we have, hearing aids that, prescriptive, they're personalized, and we sell through hearing healthcare professionals, doctors of audiologists, hearing healthcare professionals in states and around the world. And, that's evolving and changing. There's always been can you do direct to consumer? You can't get personalization through a direct to consumer. Technology's not there. Professionals is needed. So like in the US, our distribution is 5,000 customers, just rounding. And, as I look ahead, that's changing because channels are growing, they're emerging, how people want to get new hearing help. And we have to go to where the people, the patient, and the need is, because just like everything, change is constant. And so we're always looking up and out on where our products can be available. And, through hearing healthcare professionals, that's the best way to be served and to hear better.
Yeah, and it's a real good lesson for our listeners today. When you think about diversification, there's also diversification. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So what I like about your strategy is that you're making sure that the customer experience is there. It's not just about driving units or driving sales. It's about really creating a transformation. And so that's why Starkey's a leader, right? You didn't turn it into $1 billion global brand by not taking care of the customer and that human experience, which is one of the things that you guys are really known for, right?
And yes, it's our service to our customers and the patient. It starts with the patient. We're a purpose-driven company. We always have been. And we know the patient better than our competition and anybody. There's been a lot of over-the-counter and all these other things that are advertised and causes confusion to those on maybe on Facebook or other ads. And that's not better hearing. It's an option. They can have that. That's fine. What we do is we focus on premium technology, the best technology for every patient. And in those current distribution and growing distribution models and channels, because what's at Starkey, what's best for the patient is best for our customer, is best for Starkey. We're privately held. It's not the shareholder, the stock analyst. I don't have to play that game. And that's, that is part of our superpowers as a company of doing what we can do and be agile and move fast.
No, I think that's amazing. And so when you think about the growth that you've seen in over, 3 decades, you've obviously had to go through growing pains. And I know for me, I mean, I've had 17 different companies. My biggest company only sold $50 million. So it was a lot of money, but it wasn't like what you guys have. And I only had 140 employees, not 5,000. So big contrast, but I work with global brands all the time. And so I'm just curious, as you've evolved over the years, what are some of the leadership principles that you've had to integrate and escalate or elevate is the word I'm looking for with your team? Because obviously you didn't grow to be a market leader by not having a great culture and great leadership. And you already said it, what's good for us is good for the doctors and is good for the patients. So talk to me a little bit about your leadership style. Because obviously, like even in the green room, you're like, hey, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to be authentic. And I love it when guests say that versus I gave you 10 questions. These are the only 10 questions I want you to ask. And I'm like, I'll probably mess that up. So tell me about your leadership strategy and what made you into a great leader? Because obviously you are to be the president and CEO of such a great brand.
Well, I care. I know the industry. I know the people of Starkey. And for me, servant leadership. I think that's who I've been my whole life, wanting to help. But also, I hold the title of president and CEO, But that doesn't mean, I don't think of myself as that pyramid and I'm at the top.
Right.
In my mind, I, invert it. I work for the people of Starkey. They're going to tell me if I'm doing a good job. It's my job as a leader to provide them the resources and a clear vision. The vision is simple: to be the best. I don't want to be the largest because, you could get market share and lose money and lose focus. And for us, we're very focused and I want to be the best. So part of that leadership principle too is excellence, without an exception, because, if you chase perfection, you're going to come up with that. You're going to reach excellence. And it's all about service, quality, and being a company that our customers can trust and patients can rely on.
Yeah.
So it's all about food.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think trust and credibility and social proof is so important nowadays, especially with AI. I mean, the biggest thing in AI right now, I feel, is people aren't going to know what's real and what's AI driven. I mean, you can literally take a photo and turn it into a video now. You can take 6 seconds of your voice and turn it into audio. I mean, the technology is changing, and so is disruption. So is culture, leadership, team building, communication, and change. I mean, it's ripple effect. And I don't think a lot of companies really understand the impact of how the world is going to change before our eyes in the next 3 to 5 years. It's not going to end. I don't believe in the Terminator and that kind of thing, but I do believe that it's changing. And I think what I like about your vision and everything that you've done with Starkey is that you really are forward thinking. You're not just turning on a dime to every little whim of what's going on, but you're really having a customer focused perspective first. And I know you've worked with some big people. I know you've worked with like Damon John from Shark Tank. Tell me a little bit about that relationship. Just from Google, I saw that. So I don't really know the question, but I'm sure you can fill in the answer.
I met Damon. He was, we did one of our hearing missions where we give away hearing aids at Yankee Stadium at the Super Bowl. I think it was 2011 or 12. And he came over. It's the first time I met him. And, when somebody hears for the first time, because what we do also provide through our Starkey Cares is people that can't afford hearing aids.
Right.
We're a philanthropic company. And so we give back. And when somebody hears for the first time and they hear their mother's voice, any voice, the tear, I don't care how strong you are. You're like, I'm not crying. You're crying. You're crying. Yeah. I mean, it's emotional because you changed that person's life. You changed their day and their outlook forward. It's addicting. And Damon and I have been, very close since, and even closer the last several years. He loves his hearing aids. He showcases them. He wants bright red. He's the second one that has bright red hearing aids next to Elton John. And, he wants people to ask him about them. And so Damon and I are friends and I bounce ideas. He bounces ideas. And it's a great relationship. And there's a lot of world leaders, celebrities, or local people here in Minnesota that come in about 30 a day. It doesn't matter who you are. They're just people. And if their hearing aid needs fixed or they lost it or they need better hearing, you see it. And it doesn't matter what their title is because they want to stay connected. And we work with all types of people. And I've had the fortunate opportunity over 30 years to meet many, many celebrities and world leaders and great just people with their stories.
Yeah, I know.
So I got a great job.
I think it's great. I mean, I love what I do too. I mean, as a keynote speaker, I was a keynote speaker a year ago for Edible Arrangements, right? So it's a franchise. Everybody's probably heard of Edible Arrangements. So I was the keynote speaker, and after me was Damon. So I spoke first, then he spoke. So I can say I shared the stage, but I'm not a celebrity like he is. But we did speak at the same conference, and I've run into him at a few other conferences and C-suite executives and a couple other events. But I've always liked his just genuine, no nonsense, no BS approach to. He's authentic, right? You can you sense that, and he was good. So. All right,
so it's him and others, I like to pick their brain. I always ask questions better myself because I don't know everything. I'm the conductor of a band here. I don't have to know IT or I don't have to know every job. I have to bring the right talent, the right attitudes, and conduct the band, and everybody plays the symphony. And so I always learn from either the global leaders, CEOs, others. I ask questions because I I want to get better. And, the other thing is it's okay to fail because that's how you learn. And I've had failures, fail fast, move forward. And
Well,
so,
you're sharing gems. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it's, I could go down the list of people I've talked to, and one of the greatest, it'll date, and most people I was talking, Damon and I were doing a forum Q&A at South by Southwest here a couple months ago. Somebody asked me a question. Who was the great celebrities you got a lot of information or famous? I said Walter Cronkite. Nobody knew Walter Cronkite.
Of course I do, but yeah, no one else knows.
Because I got to spend the day with him back in '96. And I just asked him question. I'm a history buff, and I like to learn from people who've been there and done that. And I can go down the list of even more recent people. And, the employees here, they teach me. I don't go in as all CEO stuff, like this is, pound the table. No, I ask questions and try and listen. I can get going sometimes on, here's what we need to do, but then catch myself. It's okay. You're human. There's no, what I learned with being CEO is don't play the role, learn it.
So I'm going to unpack a few gems. For those of you listening, this is an episode that you should bookmark and go back and listen, whether you're leading one organization as a solopreneur or whether you're leading thousands. And we've got people listening in both camps. One of the things that you can tell, about Brandon is that he's authentic. And I want to cover some of the things. So open-minded and coachable, right? He's coming to a situation saying, hey, I'm at the bottom of the pyramid. I'm going to listen. So he's listening. He's asking questions. And he's a firm believer of if you're asking the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter. So he's open-minded. He's coachable. He's also accountable. So he's going to take personal accountability. He's going to be curious about things and ask questions, which is why they become a market leader. So these are great lessons that you can go back and apply. I mean, my show is really about business growth, but if you're thinking about growing a business, it really does start at the top with getting good leaders. And I know for me over my growth years, one of my companies, Brandon, I had a lot of turnover because I was a driver and I was driving people away. And I'm an EO member, not a YPO member, but an EO member. So I was in my EO forum and I was complaining about this turnover that I was having. And one of my members who'd known me for a few years said, yeah, I've heard this before, Ford. He said, what's the one common denominator in your turnover? And I go, what are you trying to say? He goes, who's always at the scene of the crime? He said, look, you don't need team building. You need leadership training. And it was interesting because I'd always focused on the marketing and bridging the gap between a value proposition and ideal client. And because I was a critical thinker and a problem solver, I thought that's how everybody else was. But what I was doing is I was creating chaos because I was delegating without any outcome or details. So I was just expecting them to read my mind. They would then fail because I would set them up for failure. And that's when I went to my buddies like Brian Tracy and other people that I hung around. And I said, okay, give me your top 5 tips. So for about 3 years, and I've been on a consistent journey for 30 years now, but I always talk to leaders and I ask them, what are their top tips? And that's one of the things I love about this show is I'm able to learn. And if there's one thing I know, the more I learn, the more I know I don't know, right? So anybody who thinks they know everything, those are the scary people. Run from them because they don't know what they don't know, and they're going to cause you a lot of trouble. Well, I'm very opinionated, but I'm also very open. I love this interview, and I love hearing what success people are doing to grow. And I think that in today's day and age, there really are no excuses anymore with podcasts and YouTube videos and AI. If you want to learn something, there's a solution. Obviously, you need to be discerning, be a critical thinker, but there's no shortage of people who can help you. What's somebody or a book or a mentor or a program or something that you've gone through that you lean on when you're looking for critical advice, other than your inner circle of people like Damon?
Yeah, that's fair. It's, the chairman and founder and owner of Starkey, Bill Austin, who is still here at the healthy, active age of 82. He's down there working today, seeing patients. That's what his first love was back in 1961, is helping people. And he's when we come out with a new product or, he's customer one. I want him to use it. If he gives it a thumbs up, I know we're good. And his approach to business has always been more common sense approach. the anecdotes, I say kind of like the Will Rogers. And that's kind of always been my style because I see people coming in, doesn't matter if, manager, director, vice president, CEO, people want to move fast, and I did too. There was a time, I'm going to be 50 next week. For me, everything has kind of slowed down, and I've learned through my failures, from my advice, from mentors, and kind of where I'm at now. And I still have more to go. Just like you were mentioning yourself, I'm a driver. That is my personality. But now I'm collaborator, listener, and also being patient. And that's I get asked, what advice would you give young entrepreneurs or people coming out of school, all that? Be patient. There's so much pressure to find, what are you going to do? Well, just find something you're passionate about. And if it doesn't, you're not happy, then, move on to something, keep searching, because be your authentic self. Don't try and be somebody you're not just to get the promotion or the role, because it's not going to work out. And don't over promote people. That was one of my biggest mistakes earlier, is over promotion, because some people, you have to understand, they're just great where they are, and don't set them up for a failure, set them up for success. And that's the role of a leader, to inspire and have those conversations.
Yeah, I've had to learn over the years to really hire for attitude, train for skills. I've had to learn to look at, when we're looking for someone for our company, I always look for, what are the skills and characteristics that we need? How are we going to measure success? I like to use MTNO, minimum, target, and optimal. I want to make sure I set clear expectations. I want to make sure I implement situational leadership, right? So it's not some leadership situations will need some hand-holding and some guidance. Others, when they have the competence and the skill set, you can delegate and they can do it. The mistakes that I think a lot of organizations make is they apply their thinking to every situation. I know I certainly did that in the early days in my companies. And then I had to realize that no, and I got humbled along the way. I mean, I never went bankrupt, but I certainly had some humbling experiences where, I've always learned, forget the mistake, learn the lesson. Like you said earlier in the episode, fail quickly. And what can you learn from it? If there's one thing constant, and you said this earlier, it's change. Everything's going to change. I think we're seeing rapid change right now. So as you look forward for Starkey, what do you see on the future?
I see expanded growth in new distribution channels that we haven't played or been in the past, because it's growing. I see the technology and what we're doing, AI, getting better for hearing, and what we can do with our chips, the chips getting smaller, and that true Jarvis approach becoming more and more a reality. And somebody that's going to help a product that's going to help you, have that edge and just make your day just a little bit better. And, we work with hearing protection. We have, that's another product.
Right.
We have hearing solutions for those with hearing loss, but normal hearing right there. People pay and train or whatever to get an advantage in their job, sports, whatever it might be. Why not the product with hearing and other features that can help you be better? It's your superpower. The hearing is, what I'm wearing is, I consider my superpower. And so I'm not satisfied with the status quo. I'm good to take risks. And yeah, you have to embrace change. You have to embrace new ideas. You have to listen. You're not going to have all the ideas, but how can you bring people together and make them the best they can be? And that's my, job and what I am passionate about.
Well, I'm certainly going to make an appointment and go look at those tools. I think too, the stigma about wearable technology is less and less. Maybe it's just because I'm older now, and I know when I got glasses when I was 40, and I thought, oh, I'll never want to get glasses. And I had contacts because I played hockey. So I wore contacts for a while, but then I'm like, you know what? Glasses improve my vision much more effectively. I'm just going to, so I've got a whole rack of different glasses. And I think that's the same thing with wearable technology. And I don't think that it's kind of like someone seeing someone who's bald or has a tattoo. Like it's not a big deal anymore. Like, when I was growing up, it would have been like, oh, that guy. And now it's like, no one cares. Right.
No, this was a choice. I did this. So you mentioned bald, but what we're doing, it's really those two words, hearing aids. That's the stigma. That's not what they are, because you mentioned it's wearable tech and it's health tech, because hearing is essential. And it's really it's educating. That's what we've been doing. And we're making that dent because right now, 1 in 6 teenagers have a hearing loss. 1 in 6. And, and I'm not happy about it because everybody goes, oh, you're going to have, wow, your business is good. You're going to have a lot of new customers. That's nothing to be proud of.
Right.
Our largest customer is the VA. We're working with the Department of Defense on hearing protection. We're working with other outlets on hearing protection because I've told many senators and others, I don't want the VA to be our largest customer in 10 years.
Right.
Because something can be done about it. Healthy hearing is important.
Yeah, I grew up in a roller rink in north side of Minneapolis, and I went to this place called the Roller Garden. I was a DJ from the time I was like 14 to 18, and it was loud, and I mean loud. And so I know now, I mean, it's like you said, I probably don't even know to the extent of my hearing loss because I don't have any benchmark to say this is normal and this isn't, because you get conditioned to doing it. It's just like vision or anything else. If you give somebody really good my first glasses were regular glasses and now they're progressives. And I'm like, holy crap, I can read my watch. Like I can see the font on the pill bottle. Like it's crazy. So I'm just so excited that you joined me. Any closing thoughts you have for our listeners today?
No, I think, whatever you do, be passionate about it because then you're never going to work a day in your life. And you're going to get a lot of opinions from people in your role, especially as you more successful or failures. You got to make sure you get the right opinions and have your circle. And then at the end of the day, you're accountable for the decision. Make the best decision for you because people will have opinions, a lot of opinions, but make a decision that you know is right and be patient. You have time. The title on the business card doesn't make you. You have to earn that and help others be successful and continue to grow.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for tuning in to Fordify Live, where we're all about accelerating your business growth. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep fortifying your success.
Thank you for tuning in to Fordify Live. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the Business Growth Show podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. We air weekly at 11 a.m. Central Time. So until next week, keep pushing the boundaries and never stop growing.